drawing articles. If you didn't finish that, make sure you staple it, put it in the folder, and you'll get more credit today. All right, so let's go and start the daily catalyst. I'm going to spend some time with you talking about this because I find that this article we read yesterday was super interesting. Everybody agree with me? Good. All right, so the question that I had for you guys was, how is the neurons in the brain very similar to how friends interact on social media, just like Facebook? All right, well, does anybody here use any type of social media? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Anything? All right, sorry, some people are included in that conversation. So how is it that neurons are like Facebook? What did you guys put down? They'll all chime in at once. Drake?
They give like little signals to each other.
Right. So these neurons have connections to each other. They send signals back and forth. Do you guys send signals back and forth to people on your social media? On your Snapchat account? Do you send messages back and forth? Yeah? Well, let's use a question. I use Facebook a lot. Some of you guys might use Instagram or something else. How many people in this room right now have at least 5 friends or more on some type of social media site? Well, I'll get to that. All right, everyone should pretty much have their hand up, I imagine. Nelly, do you have at least 5 friends on your Snapchat or your Instagram? You do? Okay, good. All right, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you have 100 friends. Wow, okay, a little bit less. Okay, let me see any hands that you have over 1,000 friends. Wow. You have over 1,000 friends, Gabriella? No, in real life. But on Snapchat, Instagram, you have 1,000 friends. All right, Gabriella, let me ask you a question. All right. Guys, listen to Gabriella. Gabriella, let me ask you a question. With your 1,000 friends that you have, how many of them would you say that you talk to every day? Every day. You have 20? At least 20? That's huge. That's the biggest number I've gotten today. 20. That's huge. So, out of your 1,000 friends, only 20 of them would you say that you maybe have these strong connections with? Yeah. Yeah. Well, did you know that that relationship that's constantly sending signals back and forth between your 20 friends is very similar to how neurons interact? Because neurons make more connections with their dendrites and their axon terminals. You don't have to sure what that is, don't worry, we'll talk more about that today. Than they do with other neurons they don't have strong signals with. So when it comes down to neurons, it's a lot like Facebook and other social media because strong connections are made between neurons that communicate most often with each other. But wait a minute, you've got all these other friends, Gabriella, that you never talk to. Why do you bother being friends with them? Because they want to follow you. That's a good response. So that maybe someday, maybe they could be better friends with you? Yeah? Well, what's the reason why that you even bother having these friends on Facebook? Tatiana? For the numbers. You're a number collector. I like that. I like that. What else? Anybody have like a distant relative or friend that you haven't seen for a long time? Yeah. Yeah. Well, what would happen if maybe that friend moved closer to you all of a sudden? Would you maybe be a stronger connection to them? Be a better friend if you guys see them more often? Yeah. We make these connections, we hold on to them, maybe not because we are using them right now, but we might use them in the future. We might want to learn more about our friends. So why do neurons themselves share these weak connections with each other? They might be far apart. Yes, Rick?
Because they don't have strong enough bonds.
They don't have strong bonds yet, but why do they bother holding on to that information? We might use them later. What do we call it, guys, when we get new information? What are we doing? What do we do in school? We're learning. This is why the neurons, we think, based on that latest science about neurology, we probably have all these weak connections with our neurons so that we can stimulate learning when new information comes to place. Now, did you guys know that how smart you are isn't based on the number of neurons you have? What's it based on?
Your brain.
Not your brain. It's based on, just like Facebook, how many connections you have. Excellent. So, before you get number 3, humans still have probably the biggest number of neurons based on the number of cells throughout their body. Does anybody have a guess? This is kind of a little factoid. How many neurons are found in an average adult?
23,000.
23,000. That's how many genes we have. I love how you kept onto that number. No, but it's a lot more than that though. We have way more neurons than we have genes. A million higher?
Billion.
A billion. Ooh, that's a big number. Bigger than that.
Billion.
Here it is.
Unknown.
100 billion neurons. 100 billion neurons. That's how many neurons we have. Did you guys know that the average neuron is about, 10 microns? If you were to go and take all the microns inside an average human brain and put them side by side, well, length by length, right? Do you know how long it would actually travel? No, we're going to go up that far. It'd be about 600 miles. That's how far all the neurons in an average human brain would travel if you put them side by side. All right, guys, so here's the plan today. You've now completed your daily catalyst. Great job. Now, what I would like for you to do is pull out your notes, and we are going to dive into, what do you think? The brain, yes. Not just the brain. What system are we going to study today? The nervous system. Good. All right, so 10 seconds. Please pull out your notes. Good. Make sure you've got that nice Cornell margins on the side. Our topic today, the human nervous system. I love this video because you might not think about it, but did you guys know what sense organ is a big part of our nervous system? Our eyes. Our eyes are part of our nervous system. This shows that very well too. Very cool.
That was part of the nervous system.
Yeah.
How?
Because when you are going through development, the same tissue that forms your brain forms your eyes. Yeah.
Like the embryonic.
To that embryonic development. Yeah. All right. So what is, again, class, the basic unit of the nervous system? The neuron. The neuron. And what is it? Well, the neuron is an electrically excitable cell that processes and transmits information through electrical and chemical signals. And yeah, it is the basic unit of the cell. And as you can see inside this video, electrical signals are carried all the way through these long neurons to connect to other neurons. In fact, one neuron might be able to send its signal, its information, along to multiple other neurons. You kind of see in the background. And it does it in a very much electrically charged way, that we're going to learn about today. And there's also some chemical components involved to transmit this signal. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to actually learn all the parts of the neuron. This is going to help us tell the story about how the neuron works and how it can send signals all the way from our toes to our brain. So I'll leave this up. Can you see with this here? Move this baby.
Jim can't see.
But Dirk can't see. Oh. Sorry, Dirk. Alright. So I'll give you guys 10 more seconds to finish up these notes. We'll move it on. Alright, so what I would like for you all to do, and this will stay up here today, I want you to draw a neuron for me and have your neuron labeled with all of the parts. That way you guys will have this in your notes. Tomorrow on your quiz, I'm going to have this exact same image up there, and you guys need to know what all the parts are by tomorrow, so you can label it for me. All right?
Do we get to use my notes tomorrow?
Of course. If you stamp your, get your summary tomorrow, you can totally use your notes tomorrow. Pretty easy. All right, so this will stay up here as I talk about all the different parts. They include the nucleus, the dendrite, the cell body, the axon, the myelin sheath, the Schwann cell, the nodes, and the axon terminal or axon ending. Let's talk about the first part. All right, the cell body. Roberto, could you read out loud for us what the cell body is and what it does?
Contains the nucleus and other organelles.
Excellent, sir. So the neuron is just like any other cell, and it's got all the same organelles that we've learned about. Who can tell me one organelle found in a typical cell? Nucleus? Yes, and sure enough, the cell body contains the nucleus. What else? Mitochondria, Lucky. Beautiful. That is found inside of the nucleus. Ribosomes, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, remember all those? They're all found right here in the cell body. Now, there is something really strange on the outside of the nucleus, outside the cell body as well, and those are the dendrites. Jim, what does the dendrites do? It receives stimuli. That's the weird word. What's stimuli? Well, a stimuli could be many things. It could be a light beam that hits your eye and hits your neuron. That could be a stimulus. It could be a loud noise. That could be a stimulus. It could even be, please allow me, a sensory touch. That could all be a stimulus. Or it could just be a stimulus from another neuron. Because what it does is that after that dendrite collects that stimulus, it sends it towards the cell body. This is where that signal is processed and interpreted, decided what to do with it. Yes?
Was the axon the entire yellow thing?
Close, but we're not there yet. Stay tuned.
I got a question.
Yes, Lucky?
What's the axon?
I'm so glad you asked, because that's coming up next. 10 seconds. All right. So, the axon, this is this weird part about the neuron. This is what actually takes that signal and carries it long physical distances, perhaps to another neuron. And so, what exactly does the axon do? I'll read it out loud for you. It carries impulses away from the cell body and it brings it over here to the axon terminal. Now, who here has ever played with electrical wires before? You know, you're hooking up a speaker, for instance. What kind of material transports those, electrons across?
Wire.
Wire. Usually it's made out of copper. That's the most common one. But you can also use steel, gold, silver. A lot of metals are able to transport those electrons. But do you guys have like bare metal wire that you use typically? No, you insulate it, right? You have something covering it. What do you usually cover your metal wires with? D? Getting way side to the nose. When I'm talking about a copper wire, what usually is covering it on the outside? I'm tape. What do you think, Dee? Have you ever played with wires before? No? Okay, no worries. What is it? Plastic, yeah. Usually it's plastic all the way over those wires. They're insulating it so that you don't short circuit your signal. Our cells on the axon, which is kind of like a long wire, has the same thing. It has these very specialized cells called the Schwann cell that wraps around the axon of the motor and sensory neurons. And they form this special myelinated sheath that surrounds it and insulates it. Now the Schwann cell itself is actually a cell that when the neuron is being developed, it grows over it and produces that myelin sheath. After a while, it does die, and it becomes kind of this plastic insulating wire over it. 10 seconds. Button.
You know the purple part on the picture?
This part? This is called the dendrite. What's the other one you're concerned about? This side? Ah, because they're different parts. We'll learn about the axon terminal really soon. Shemai?
You have like a little thing right there, like that. It's pointing to the first two. The first
Like
and
this
the
right
last-
here? The axon?
The first and the last yellow thing, so it's the thing that's pointing to. It's like that.
So this right here, from here to here, is the axon.
So
From here to that end. And it's surrounded by what type of cells? Schwann cells. Excellent.
McDaniel,
Hmm?
is the entire yellow thing the axon?
The entire part is the axon. But remember, that yellow part, that is what, Drake? That's the myelin sheath. That's that insulating coat of plasma membrane. Okay? Now, these little dots right here, these are called what cells? Lucky? Schwann cells. You say that perfectly. Excellent. And the reason why they have that is that science has shown that unmyelinated axons carry impulses much slower than myelinated axons. So that insulating material, that plasma membrane that's over that axon, really helps to send signals across. Now that's the myelin sheath. What do we call these gaps that are found between all this myelinated sheath along the axon? Excellent, class. Those are the nodes and branch here. And those are those bare axonal membranes between those Schwann cells. Those play a really important role in carrying signals all the way across. And we're going to be looking at how it does that in just a little bit. 10 seconds. Let me make sure your question is really good. Okay. Oh yeah, that's supposed to be the axon, yeah. I was trying to erase the word axon and put it above, but I couldn't do it with the version of PowerPoint I have, unfortunately. So I just added it. But good, I'm glad you understand that. Okay. 5 seconds. Okay, so what do you guys think is the last part of the neuron we haven't talked about yet? The axon terminal, good. What is it? Well, this is what connects to other neurons as dendrites to continue the signal to whatever destination that signal is heading to. But there's a very special structure that is found at the end of the axon terminal. Alex, what is the name of that very special structure that connects one axon terminal to a dendrite of another neuron? Synapse. Beautifully spoken. All right. 10 seconds. time. All right. So here's your quiz. Hope you guys got a really good note-taking experience. I want you guys to take your notes and label it on the margins 1 through 5. And I want you to go and tell me what each of these parts are. So, I'll give you guys 60 seconds to gather your thoughts and make sure you know what each of these parts are that I'm showing to you. I'll be calling individuals randomly out, share what they think each of these parts are. Thirty seconds. All right. Anthony, number 1, please. What structure are we pointing to at number 1?
It's a dendrite.
Dendrite. Excellent, sir. That is a dendrite. Number 2, Christina Gilrays. Cell body. Beautiful. D, what is number 3 pointing to? Yeah. I just call them nodes for short, but perfect. Number 4 is a little tougher. Drake, what is number 4? Myelinated sheath. And the last one, Kevin in the back.
Axon terminal.
Axon terminal. I sometimes call it axon endings, but either way, you can call them axon terminal or axon ending, and they both be correct. Nice job, guys. All right, let's move on. So there's one last structure. You can't see because it is so small. It is the, say it with me, class, the synapse.
Synapse.
A synapse is a structure that permits a neuron to pass an electrical or chemical signal to another cell. Now, who here thinks they know, out of all the structure of the neuron, where can I find the synapse? Where can I find that synapse? This is where I'm actually taking signals and sending it to another neuron. Where would that be? Maria? Where would I find that synapse? Good guess. You're close, but you're not quite there. Diana, where would I find a synapse on my neuron? Well, you don't know because I haven't told you yet, but using your logic, that a synapse is where I would pass one signal at the end of a neuron to another neuron. Where would that be? Lucky?
Wow, what did she say?
Not the right answer.
All the ones say no.
Roberto? Not the dendrite, it's the other end. The axon terminal. This is where you'll find the synapse, right over here. So Christina Gerace, where would I find a synapse? Axon terminal. Daisy, where would I find a synapse? Christina Vang, what can I find at the end of an axon terminal? Excellent. Good job, guys. All right, so here's our synapse. And it very much is a gap between nerve cells. Here is my axon what? Terminal. Here is actually a dendrite, probably to another neuron. Now, unfortunately, I can't keep sending these electrical signals all the way across, so I have to use a different strategy. In this case, I have to use a very special chemical to send it across. These special chemicals have a name you might have heard before. They're called neurotransmitters. That's the word of the day, neurotransmitters. These are the signals, little dots that are moving across. Those are what class? Say it with me. Neurotransmitters. One more time. Neurotransmitters. Good. And there are lots of different neurotransmitters we're going to be learning about later in this class when we speak about how things like drugs and life experiences affect what type of neurotransmitters are carried over. Because your body has many different neurotransmitters, each with their own unique signal that they send. 10 seconds. Alright, so I have to go and teach you guys about how we actually send these signals across the axon. I've decided to bridge it, make it a little more simple. So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to write just the part that is in red. I'll read the whole thing out, but in your notes, just get down the parts that are in red. For instance, if I tell you guys, hey, a nerve impulse. At a nerve impulse, a neurons at rest do not conduct impulses. What would you write? Rest, no impulses. Good. If I tell you, hey, sodium ions collect on the outside of the cell membrane, what will you write, Francisco?
Sodium ions connect outside.
Beautiful. That's all you need to write. And we'll continue that for the next few slides when I talk to you guys about actually how we send signals across. So once again, most neurons, when they're at rest, they do not conduct impulses. And usually, sodium ions collect on the outside. And so this is a kind of picture of my axon with my sodium ions on the outside. Hey, what's Na stand for? What's Na plus mean? Sodium. Oh, that's right. Good thing I got my periodic table here to remind me, because that will let me know what I'm talking about. All right, we good? All right, next slide. So while sodium ions are on the outside, potassium ions